March 1943, the IJN dispatched 16 ships from Rabaul. Their destination was a port of Lee on the island of New Guinea. The convoy was attacked on March 2nd here, and a larger coordinated attack occurred around here on March 3rd. 8 of the 8 convoy transports were sunk, along with 4 of the 8 destroyers. This left thousands of troops and seamen in the water. The B-25s used in most of the low-level attacks were the modified C-1 models, where they sported 8 forward-facing Browning M2 50 caliber machine guns, 4 in the nose cavity and 4 mounted on the sides. Each gun was fed by 480 rounds of a repeating ammo mix of 2 armor-piercing, 2 incendiary, and a single tracer. These guns were used to suppress the ship's anti-aircraft fire while on a bombing run, and they were used in strafing the Japanese in the water. This table from a 5th Air Force Battle of the Bismarck Sea report lists a convoy ship's name, weight, and number of personnel carried. The convoy was transporting around 6,000 Japanese military troops, and the cargo supplies are listed in this table. Let's review a couple battle narrations as documented by the bomber crews. This crew report snippet from an April 1943 5th Air Force Battle of the Bismarck Sea report describes a B-25 ship attack on March 3, 1943. They attacked a destroyer around 10 a.m. with a 500-pound bomb and then made 15 strafing runs on a lifeboat and survivors in the water. During the next afternoon, they bombed a destroyer and strafed more survivors who were in small lifeboats and rafts. The March 3rd combat location is here. Most of the ships were sunk here, and this area was teeming with survivors from sunken transports and destroyers. This image shows the 4 Japanese merchant vessel types from an April 1945 21st Bomber Command Air Intelligence report. The convoy was a mix of Fox and the larger Terror ships. This image from a May 1943 Assistant Chief of Air Staff impact document shows a merchant vessel under a B-25 strafing attack during the March 3rd battle. The caption points out there's 8 landing craft located on its upper deck. This model shows a clearer view of the landing craft located on the ship's deck. This page from an April 1945 Naval Intelligence document shows characteristics and an image of the Japanese Type B and the larger Type A landing craft carried on the cargo ship's deck. These were placed in the water by the ship's crane. Given the craft's speed and endurance, the Type B has enough fuel for around 43 miles and the larger Type A for 82 miles. This assumes they were fully topped off with fuel. The Type B landing craft can carry 30 troops or 3 tons of cargo, and the Type A can carry 90 troops or 11 tons of cargo. The Japanese cargo ships and destroyers also have lifeboats, like seen in this image or on this Japanese destroyer model. This image from a 2013 Air Force history document on the Battle of the Bismarck Sea shows an overhead view of the Japanese destroyer's lifeboats. As the ship sinks, the crew may have time to deploy the landing crafts and/or lifeboats if not shot up by the strafing runs or damaged by bombs. This page from a 1945 U.S. Navy document outlining anti-submarine tactics describes U-boat strafing guidelines. Strafing is to be directed at deck personnel. The aircraft gunner should also target the U-boat's vital locations. Survivors in the water, though, are not to be fired upon. In this B-25C-1 battle narration that occurred on March 3rd at 1:30 p.m., the crew, after attacking the ship with their bombs, strafed the Japanese survivors and floating cargo in the water, which was strewn as far as the eye could see. A sinking destroyer crew launching a lifeboat was strafed by the bomber's 8 50 caliber machine guns for a 7-second duration. He stopped firing when the lifeboat was destroyed and the crew were killed. The crew returned on the next day on the 4th at 2:30 p.m. with 8 other B-25s to seek out and sink the last remaining ship afloat, a destroyer. After the destroyer attack, they spent 25 minutes strafing the Japanese in the water from the previous day's attack. He points out the devastating effect of the B-25C-1 model's 8 forward-facing 50 caliber machine guns cannot be overlooked. In this B-25C-1 attack on March 4th at 3 p.m., the target was a crippled destroyer and Japanese in the water at this location, which is around here, 40 miles from this shore point. There were around 200 Japanese troops in the water within a 2-square-mile area of the destroyer. They were clinging to ship debris, like seen in this image from the reference shown earlier. The destroyer was struck by a bomb. After the attack, the bomber made 3 strafing passes at personnel in the water, expending 2,500 rounds. On March 5th, aircrews were ordered to seek and destroy any remaining personnel in the water by attacking any barges and lifeboats still afloat. These attacks would be conducted by the RAAF Squadron 30 boat fighters. War Order 15-63J requires the deployment of 5 bullfighters to attack 10 barges at this position. They are occupied by survivors and cargo. These are the 5 bullfighters assigned to the mission. Takeoff is at 2:30 p.m. The attack is described on this page. A Hudson was seen attacking a large military landing craft, likely the Type A landing craft, and the smaller Type B landing craft, 20 miles from Lucency Island. The Type B boat was filled with around 30 troops, and the larger Type A craft was filled with at least 30 troops. They wore IJA uniforms. Both of the landing crafts were strafed. The Japanese did not jump overboard during the strafing attacks, and they were all assumed killed. The water was red, and sharks could be seen in the area. The Type B boat was sunk, and the Type A was sinking. 20 miles southwest of Cape Ward Hunt, another barge holding 30 Japanese was strafed and was sinking. The attack occurred around here, 20 miles from shore. The Japanese may have fired on the plane with small arms, however, the wing hole may have been from a ricochet. Another small barge with 6 Japanese aboard was strafed and was sinking. All boats attacked were considered sunk. War Order 1463K is listed on this page. 6 bullfighters will be sent to seek and destroy 30 lifeboats 30 miles from Cape Ward Hunt on March 5th. These are the RAAF bullfighters sent on this mission. Group A, 10 miles west of Cape Ward Hunt, was comprised of 5 Type B landing craft and a small boat. 4 of the Type B boats were filled with 25 Japanese and 1 was filled with cargo. All boats were aggressively strafed and destroyed. In this case, the Japanese jumped overboard prior to strafing. This spared the crews of witnessing the carnage that crews from the War 15 attacks observed. Group B was comprised of 14 rafts, each loaded with 12 men, and 4 lifeboats, each with 6 men. 2 of the lifeboats were sailing toward shore. The lifeboats were only partially filled, suggesting they may have been manned by officers. All boats were strafed. A barge from Group A did return fire from a submachine gun or light machine gun. The aircrews pointed out that the order to strafe the undefended boats was understood. They carried out the orders to destroy the craft and kill the occupants. However, these strafing attacks were considered distasteful. From a 1995 U.S. Air Force History and Museum Programs document discusses the post-battle operations. From March 4th and on, the Allies hunted the Japanese battle survivors by either PT boats or aircraft. An RAAF pilot pointed out, for every Japanese killed, that is one less the Army may have to face. This historian remarked, the Japanese do not surrender. They were within swimming distance from the shore and could rejoin the Leh Garrison. I would push back on the statement that survivors were within swimming distance from the shore, as they were more like 10 to 40 miles from the shore. 3,000 of the 6,900 convoy personnel died by bombing, strafing, exposure, thirst, and/or shark attack. This page from a November 2007 World War II magazine article justifies the post-battle attacks on the Japanese survivors. Over the next few days, post-March 3rd, the Allies were sent to the battle zone to search and destroy any ship survivors. General Kenny ordered them to strafe the lifeboats and rafts. These were mopping up operations. On March 20th, he claimed the missions will stop that night. Any survivors not killed will be at or beyond 30 miles from landfall in shark-infested waters, not likely to survive. Many aircrew reports were logged claiming barge, 200 survivors, attacked, no survivors. Kenny's chief of staff pointed out the Japanese set the pace for no quarter after strafing parachuting B-17 crew members. This event was witnessed and shared throughout the 5th Air Force and was used by some aircrews to justify the strafing of the Japanese. However, others justified the killings were a military necessity. At the time, the strafing of the Japanese was not considered controversial. The public was supportive of the tactic, as one officer pointed out. The enemy is out to kill you, and you the enemy. You cannot be sporting in war. Life magazine featured General Kenny on its March 22, 1943 cover, as seen here, with headline Victor of Bismarck Sea. Reconnaissance of the battle area showed many Japanese survivors in the water. Commanders ordered airmen to attack these personnel. The goal was to keep them from reaching New Guinea and joining the war effort. This was clearly not a rescue mission, but a seek and destroy mission. Many were on lifeboats and landing craft. The landing craft could be considered war material and legitimate military targets. Most Japanese were found in lifeboats, rafts, or clinging to debris. There was no way to rescue the Japanese by air. The Japanese swam away from the PT boat sent during the night raids. Their Bushido warrior code made surrendering difficult. Present-day warfighters may struggle with this decision made 83 years ago. Back then, the rationale it was a military necessity to kill a Japanese soldier rather than face him in a future battle. The airmen returned to the battle area for mopping up operations, as discussed on this page from a 1996 U.S. Air Force document on the air war in the Southwest Pacific during World War II, where mopping up was a term for locating and strafing any Japanese found in the water. Airmen justified their actions as payback for Japanese atrocities, past, present, and future. Others felt it was an easy way to reduce the number of Japanese soldiers, which may lead to the war ending sooner. General Kenny's attitude was expressed in these thoughts. The Japanese asked for no quarter and expect none. He thought the Japanese were tough fanatics, not aligned with civilized belligerents. Some aircrews found the strafing missions distasteful, others thought their actions were not unlawful or immoral. A Japanese survivor recalled, "Most of the shipwreck survivors were killed. The survivors had to deal with aircraft attacks and sharks. Many of the survivors were drifting with the winds and currents. Some of the Type A and B powered landing crafts did attempt to reach New Guinea." Channel commentary: I believe strafing of the shipwreck survivors can be militarily justified under certain conditions. If a powered landing craft full of armed troops and provisions is headed to shore, then yes, strafing is justified. However, unarmed Japanese in non-powered lifeboats 40 miles from shore or on floating debris shot up by PT boat crews at point-blank range can't be justified unless they refuse to surrender. There are definitely shades of gray between these two scenarios. Based on the combat narrations and rationale given, do you believe these attacks on the Japanese were warranted? If you found this Battle of the Bismarck Sea strafing Japanese survivors video interesting and thought-provoking, please consider liking, commenting, and or subscribing to World War II U.S. Bombers.